It's John Bowden and one of the most everlasting songs from 1977, released in 76, but reached number one in 77 on Rock History Music with a special guest. I remember when I was growing up in 77, I was 17 years old. I was the guy who bought all kinds of music. I would buy, well, maybe not Debbie Boone, but I was a big Olivia Newton-John fan. It wouldn't be uncommon for me to go to school, to lend some albums to people where I'd have Clearly Loved by Olivia Newton-John, Led Zeppelin 4, and Eric Carmen's debut album. Music was music to me. Interestingly, Torn Between Two Lovers was the number one song before our topic song was number one, which is Bruce Springsteen's Blinded by the Light, recorded by Manfred Mann's Earth Band. Chris Thompson's our special guest. Just as a point of reference, after Manfred Mann's Blinded by the Light was number one, after that, in 77, it was New Kid in Town by the Eagles. The first single from Hotel California. I always found that funny because I always thought, why didn't they come out of the gate with Hotel California? Well, they didn't, and it kind of worked out okay. Chris Thompson is our special guest. He'll talk about how Springsteen didn't like their version, how he's made good with Springsteen, and all the great people he's worked with in his career. One of the greatest voices in rock and roll history. He's our friend. He's Chris Thompson on Rock History Music. Blinded by the Light, it's one of those songs that changes the trajectory, and I like it when people ask you about that, and you have to tell them, well, Springsteen wrote that song. And I've been caught in situations like that as an interviewer, but I've been in radio 40 years, and I'm a research pig. Tell me how that song, did that song change your life? I mean, really, you were
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I have to say, I love Bruce, but it was the band at Manfred working that song to get it to where it was, that big hit. And, I
don't like
had
Bruce's version, by the way. I've never liked Bruce's version.
Well, I hadn't even heard Bruce's version when we recorded ours. I just heard Manfred singing this horrible version because he's a horrible singer, but he's actually a good singer, but a horrible sound on his voice. So I hadn't heard it. I just interpreted what he did, and we put it down because the chords are all different. So it's not a monotone, and I think that's what. And it's got ear candy up the wazoo. So it changed my life, definitely. I mean, number one in America, number one in most places in the world, and it's still on heavy rotation in the States on those classic rock stations. It's marvelous.
So did he give you any direction, because you were fairly new and unknown at that time, that as far as singing? Because Colin from the Zombies told me that Rod Argent, when they're recording, I don't know if you know those guys, but he says he guides me through all the vocals. I said, "What? You're Colin Blunstone? What the hell?" And he says, "No, I don't mind. I'm okay with that." He's told me that twice. But so anyway, a long question. Did you just interpret it the way you wanted it? How did that go?
Well, like I said, Manfred was just singing it at me every time we. I mean, the thing with Manfred is he sits down and he just plays at the piano, excuse me, over and over again, whatever he's doing with. And in this case, it was Blinded by the Light, and he just kind of mumbled this shit, and I just had the lyric sheet and I just sang it the way I sang it, and he didn't at all give me any direction. In fact, when I was doing the vocal, he went across the road to the fish and chip shop and had lunch. So, so that's how much direction he gave me on that. But, he heard me sing it a lot of times, and I heard him sing it a lot of times. So it was just, it gelled itself, really.
Like before he goes into, what is it, chopsticks he does in the middle?
Yeah.
Yeah, before he does, you're just wailing right into that. That's just, to me, that's just magic.
Yeah, it was a bit of a chance, I think. That was it's the engineer for you. He was listening to some outtakes and he heard that, and he said, "Manfred, why don't we put that in the song, after the solo?" And that's what we did. So engineers often, it's just that one sentence that somebody says that makes all the difference to everything. And with Blinded, especially the beginning of Manfred had this idea about a heavy cello do at the front, and we mixed it like that. And the record company guy, Jerry Braun, came and he listened to it and he went, man, that's rubbish. I don't like the beginning. It's just blah, blah, blah. And he left, and we were just sitting there going, shit. I could see my career just going out already before it even started. And then Laurie, the engineer, said, I've got, there's another bit that you play, Manfred, which is the beginning of the song. He was playing it somewhere else when he was jamming around. So we put that on the front, and the rest is history as far as that's concerned as well.
There's a gentleman here, Peter Bradford. He asked me, I'll always go, hey, I'm interviewing this person. Do you have any questions? And sometimes I used to not do that because it makes it sound like I'm lazy. I'm not. I do a lot of work, but sometimes they come up with better questions than I would have. But he had asked you, Blinded by the Light, was it really banned by some stations because there was a line in there, the deuce line, that was it really banned?
Absolutely. Manfred and I did a 52 or 54 station tour in America just to tell people it wasn't douche, it was deuce. Yeah, we did 52 or 54 stations in about a week, just trying to get, yeah. And the stupid thing is that it was all to do with the way the machines were lined up. There's a thing called azimuth, and you have to line it up before the session and you line it up when you mix. And for some reason or other, it wasn't lined up when I did the vocal. So when we came to mix, it had that kind of, the wrapped up like a douche. It sounded just was funny. And it made people play it over and over again, but it also got us banned in a lot of places in America.
Going into I guess you probably can't get into a studio after you did Blinded by the Light and you started working with other artists. I'm sure every artist asked you about Blinded by the Light, right? I mean, it must have been like,
it's okay. I'd have to tell you, I went out to a fondue restaurant in Switzerland. Bruce was playing the next night. We had played and we had a day off, and the promoter said, look, Bruce is coming tomorrow. I'm going to take him out for fondue. Do you want to come in and sit together and chew the fat? And I said, yeah, that'd be fantastic. So we did that. And we talking away like he does, talk about Denny's and all those kind of things we were doing. And then I said to him, so Bruce, what do you think about Blinded by the Light? And there was a long silence, and he said, what was that? What's that other song you had with that band Night? I said, yeah, it's Hot Summer Night. He said, yeah, I like that song.
What?
So he didn't like it at all. He didn't like it at all. And yeah. And yeah. And it was funny because the next day, I mean, we got on really well. That was just a funny moment. We got on, and the next day that we're going up the mountain to do something, the band, Little Stephen and them all, and Clarence, of course. And I just didn't have time. They asked me to come up to the top and have something to drink, and I just couldn't do it. And I wish I had. But anyway, I'm going to see Bruce on the 18th. Yeah, he's invited me. He's playing just outside where I live, so he invited me to go see him. So that's going to be nice.
That's a revelation to me. I had no idea, because I would think.
No, he didn't like it. He didn't like Fire either. He tried to stop Fire from coming out.
Well, the Pointer Sisters, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, the Pointer Sisters did such a great job. I mean, people always say that Bruce was upset because Blinded was his first #1, but he's done so many things after that. I'm sure he's not still upset about it. If you look around, there's a very funny tape of him sitting and playing the guitar and talking. I don't know where it is, about douche, about that and the song, and it's very funny. It's a Bruce Springsteen douche. I think you'll find it's a revelation in itself that he was pretty upset about getting, it being associated with the song. But of course, it was the engineer's fault for not lining up the azimuth properly. Pretty funny.
Well, I'd heard an interview. I was just listening to an interview with you with a smaller channel, a guy who was just a huge fan, you could tell. And he was asking you about meeting Manfred, but it's interesting the fact that you, until he said you're getting this much a week, you didn't really know. I mean, you're going over to his house over and over again.
No. In fact, we laughed about it when I finally decided to leave. We laughed about the fact that I never was actually given the job in the first place. It was just, yeah, well, I have to pay you this amount of money. It was funny. It was funny, but that's Manfred. I mean, he's just a funny guy.
Was that almost a retainer in the beginning? Like you're going to be with us until...
It was exactly a retainer. That's what we hadn't made a record. The band before with Mick Rogers was, successful, but Manfred wanted to do some more pop stuff and everything. So, we had a deal with the record company, and I guess you have to look at how much you can spend on recording and how much you can spend on the band. So, yeah, it was a small retainer, I can tell you that.
But he had heard you sing something, right? He had heard you sing something and asked, is that you, right?
Yeah, I sent him a tape from the only thing I had of me singing was a kind of I guess it was like a recorded thing from one of the clubs I played in New Zealand, and it was pretty badly recorded, but you could hear me okay. Yeah, and he asked me, is that really you? Is that you singing? So, yeah.
With you, how did you handle, I was just talking to Justin Hayward last week, and I know you guys, shared War of the Worlds. You were both on there. But I asked him, I said, well, why it's hard to come up to an artist that you really respect. You are one of those and going, why aren't you dead? It's not that. It's like, why? Fame kills people. You look at Taylor Hawkins. I'm not sure why Taylor Hawkins died. Ultimately, no one knows. But sometimes you look at a young guy, the 27 Club's a great example, right? They get everything they ever want, then they realize on some level that that's not enough. That's, everything you ever wanted is not what you want. How have you survived? How have you survived all that?
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, I don't think Manfred Mann's Earth Band as such, the fame, it wasn't, we were able to walk down the street and nobody really recognized us, because they did in Germany and places where we played a lot, but not really. And so we were fairly able to lead a normal kind of life. And I've always been a guy that kept fit. I kept fit, still keep fit, touch wood. And yeah, I never felt like I'd achieved what I wanted to achieve, or that I always felt like I had to keep working and looking in different directions for things, and kept working with Manfred even though I'd left the band. And and then I worked with Alan, which was incredible, really. And yeah, I didn't really have to deal with fame, thank goodness.
And that's, John Helliwell of Supertramp was telling us, I said, well, he said, no, everyone thinks that somehow I'm famous, the sax player guy. And he said, but I was the spokesperson of the band on stage because Roger and Rick didn't say that much. But he says, I go have coffee. People, they'll go, yeah, maybe now and then there's rumblings in the back of me. He says, I love that. That's it. That's enough for me, he says.
Yeah, I love John. He's a good old friend.
Is he?
Yeah, he is. We've done so much together, John. Yeah, and he's brilliant.
By the way, Angel Station, I really like that album.
Me too.
To me, that was just I like when he experimented. I love the experimental stuff, but I'm a real music fan. I'm the one that, reads the liner notes. But in '79, I was graduating and like You Angel You, God.
Yeah,
God,
I was still doing that. I was doing 2 songs from that record when I retired at the end of last year.
You did the single, right? You did the first song.
What was the first song?
I forget what's that? I'll tell you.
We did. I just did Angels at My Gate and You Angel You. I didn't do anything else from there.
Okay. I was listening to, I think on on Spotify. Another, I forget the first song on the album. It doesn't matter.
I definitely forget the first song on the album, but yeah, Angel Station, You Angel You became a fan favorite of my small group of fans with my Norwegian band. So we played it everywhere.
So many Bob Dylan songs, a lot. I mean, he obviously Manfred was a huge, even before the Earth Band. Obviously, the Mighty Quinn. I mean, so many Dylan songs.
Well, Manfred was a fan of songs, and it didn't matter whether it was Dylan or it was Bruce or whoever. He just could pick out some stuff, and it's like Davy's on the Road Again. I don't know whether you know that song. It's a Robbie Robertson, John Simon song, and if you could hear the original and what it ended up with, that was another big hit for us. I think it was on mandolin and Squeezebox. Hey, do you know that song, Davy's on the Road Again?
I don't think it was a hit in Canada. I don't know.
No, it was a big hit in Europe. You should listen to that. And yeah, it's crazy how he changed that song. He used to drive us mad. He'd sit down and play that song whenever he could find a piano. He's a crazy genius, Manfred. I mean, he really is. Now, unfortunately, he's still making the same record he was making 15 years ago. And, he's lost the ability to be able to do something and then put it away. He just keeps doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it and think that's what will make it better. But
Pat Simmons, I always say Pat Simmons was the glue that kept, when Tom left, and he's just recently left again because of his back, but he'll be back. And Michael came in. I know you worked with him as well, and One Step Closer. But to me, it was still the Doobie Brothers because Pat Simmons was still there, and I know you co-wrote half the songs on Arcade. Did you know Pat before then?
Before Arcade,
yeah.
I can't even remember how I met Pat, but
was it One Step? Would have been One Step Closer then.
Yeah, it might have been. Yeah, it might have been that, or maybe it was through David Pack, I think, perhaps. And anyway, yeah, I mean, I lived at Pat's farm in Santa Cruz for all the time we were making that record. He's a wonderful man, great guitarist, lovely guy. We had a lot of fun. We laughed a lot, that's for sure. And we toured with Pat. We did Japan, Hong Kong. It was fantastic, and America, of course. It was great. So
you worked with Steve Hackett, who is still to this day one of my favorite interviews. I've interviewed him I think 7-8 times. I'm a big Genesis fan, so I was very nervous the first time I went to talk to him. I don't get really nervous anymore because I've been doing it so long. But tell me about working with him in, I think, 86, right? I think.
Yeah. Although, yeah. Well, I did so many sessions like that. I don't know how he got my number, called me up, sent me a tape with some of the songs on it. And I think we did 4 songs, I think, together. And yeah, he was a lovely guy, very studious, very serious. And yeah, the songs didn't come out. Did they come out in 86? Did they? Because
Well, no, it says you recorded with him in 86. I saw
Yeah,
that.
I recorded in 86 and the song came out in 90, I think, because Brian May got involved and yeah, they kind of finished it up together. So
when you're doing like the all-star sort of thing, where there's a lot of different people, that's got to be, I mean, Randy Meisner told me years ago, because he can't do it anymore because he drank too much. He said that was one of his favorite things. He's way more fun than the Eagles, he says.
Yeah. I've done some really great things like that. Really good. Yeah.
Because they're your peers and obviously they're happy to see you, and or sharing the stage. There's something about that that's pretty special.
It's very, very special. Very special. I've done some pretty special things like that. I mean, Alan was great because there was 3 singers, but when we did that, we did the world, what was it called? World Peace Concert in Holland. And that was with Joe Cocker and myself and Candy Dulfer. And yeah, it was a good feeling. Always a good feeling to do those special best of, rock, whatever they call it, rock music classics and all those kind of things that we've done. Really, really special.
By the way, how does it feel being one of the greatest voices in the world? I mean, I was talking to someone the other day where we're doing a live feed. We're going, everyone's talking about Paul Rogers and, Jimmy Page. And then all of a sudden the Chris Thompson people started coming on. They just like, what are you, crazy? So how does it feel being one of the greatest voices of all time?
Well, very lucky, I think.
What do you say, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was very lucky. I'm very privileged to do what I did. And I was very lucky. Somebody sent me a live recording of something I did with Alan Parsons in Mexico or something like that. And it was...
Didn't you do the voice with him?
Yeah, yeah, we did the voice, yeah. But this was Limelight, I think. And I listened to it. It's a long time ago, and I listened to it and I went, I could actually really sing.
Well, Paul McCartney has those moments. People ridicule Paul sometimes, going, he'll be in the restaurant, he'll hear the Beatles, he'll always go, oh, they were a good little band. Yeah. But can you objectively listen to yourself? I mean, that's an old question, but can you?
It depends what it is. There's some things I did I can't objectively listen to. But the majority of my stuff I can, I think. And I still don't like some of it that I didn't like in the first place. But I think a lot of the things I really like.
Remember, if you want to help the channel, there are links at the very top of the description where you can make a donation or buy a t-shirt or join our Patreon where you'll get early access to a lot of our videos. Subscribe to our channel, comment on them, like them, and share them on social media. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History Music. Take care of yourself.